So good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us. My name is Nikele Gregor Karai. I'm technical specialist in water and soil with IICA. And today is our final forum of a series of 4. And today's forum will share experiences enhancing climate responsive agriculture in the Caribbean region. So we will be sharing with you some of the projects that IICA is doing in the region. So this is our agenda for today. We'll have our opening remarks from our technical specialist in St. Kitts and Nevis, Ms. Sharon Jones, after which we will have presentations of projects from Dominica by Mr. Coipel. We'll also have a presentation by Mr. Tirtopawiro Laurenzo from Suriname, and we'll also have project presentation by Willie Chan of Belize. After that, we will have some questions and answers pertaining to these presentations, followed by a breakout group. And in this breakout group, we will be asking you to give us some of the projects that are currently taking place in your country. It does not have to be agricultural projects. This is for us to update our database on projects happening in the various countries. And also we will ask you some of the projects that you would like to see implemented in your country. And after the breakout groups, we'll have a short discussion if you want to give some remarks. And then we will have our closing remarks by Mr. Dalton, who is the technical specialist in St. Vincent. So just for housekeeping, for those of you, as I said, add your country to the end of your name. You just select your name in the participants, you go on more, and you rename yourself and just add your country. So you could raise your hand, you could unmute your mic if you have questions when we reach the Q&A section. And right now I will put on an entry poll. If you could just answer from the screen. I will have to do this later. So right now I will pass on to Ms. Sharon Jones to give us our opening remarks. Sharon.
Hi, good morning. Thank you so much for that introduction. And good morning, colleagues. I'm so happy that you're joining us on this 4th and final installment of the 2021 series, Caribbean Climate Responsive Agriculture Forum. The Caribbean Climate Responsive Forum, once called the Caribbean Climate Smart Agriculture Forum, was established by IICA in 2015. The purpose of the forum is really to bring together actors like you in the agriculture and related sectors to learn from each other's experiences and exchange information on agriculture and climate change in the Caribbean. And since 2015, the forum has remained active and has enabled discussion on the region's most pressing challenges, highlighting and allowing for the sharing of potential solutions from a national perspective and a regional outlook. This forum allows for a regional meeting of the minds. And through this forum, IICA also shares with the region its projects, its actions, and ways and manners it's addressing climate change in these member states. This year's IICA took a bottom-up approach to the development of the forum and the topics for the forum. It discussed with its member states and people on the ground as to what they wanted to cover and what they were interested in. And these suggestions were collected from the region, collated, and hence we had these topics. So part 1, we looked at the practical solutions to on-farm soil and water management. Part 2, the power of meteorological data for effective farm management. Part 3, we looked at the use of high quality forages to build a climate resilient livestock production system. And today, our final installment, We are going to share IICA's experiences enhancing climate change responsiveness in agriculture in the Caribbean. Following this the three presentations you will get from the IICA team, then we'll fall into our breakout sessions, which will allow you to give your national perspective, highlight your challenges, share local innovative solutions and barriers to implementing change. This is a very important component of the forum, as your perspective and your country knowledge is invaluable and adds to the regional broad body of knowledge. So we've also had people who have journeyed with us on this 4-part series. And for those of you who have, we have an additional value and to show you how much we do value the cooperation. Persons who have attended 3 or more of the forums will receive a certificate of participation, and 1 farmer and 1 extension officer from each of the 13 countries will receive some input support for agriculture climate change responsive related activity. So again, welcome. Let's have a productive webinar, a fruitful dialogue, and let our minds meet as we create change in the Caribbean. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you for this, Sharon. And as we said, we are going to be sharing with you IICA's experiences and on-the-ground work in the region. And without further ado, I would like to present to you Mr. Ken Coipel. And he is currently the technical specialist in the IICA Delegation in Dominica. He holds a Master's of Science degree in Agribusiness and Marketing from the University of the West Indies and a Bachelor of Science in Agronomy. His professional career extends to working as a technical officer at the Dominica Bureau of Standards, Market Development Officer at Dominica Export-Import Agency, DEXIA. We also have Research Assistant and Lab Supervisor at CARDI, Caribbean Agriculture Research and Development Institute. He has had formal training in food safety systems, implementing and documenting quality management systems, project appraisal and management, produce inspection and certification, auditing the fresh produce inspection and certification system, as well as agrotourism and measuring climate change vulnerabilities. And today, Mr. Coipel will be presenting to us experiences in disaster risk and women, as well as sustainable land management. Over to you, Mr. Coipel.
Thank you, Nikelia. I hope you can hear me clearly. Just confirming that you can hear me.
Yes, all clear.
Great. All right. Okay. Let me just first of all thank you, Madam Moderator, for inviting me to share my experiences with colleagues across the region. So I also want to express my hello. Yeah, my thanks for sharing this panel with my colleagues, Willie and Laurenzo. And I also want to recognize we have people, my colleagues across the region, various offices, as well as participants, farmers, staff of the ministry, and other private sector persons that may be on this call. The topic that I was asked to speak on is really in terms of strengthening disaster management capacity of women. And I will certainly do that in context of Dominica, in context of some of the programs that we are involved in. And I will probably focus on the last few years because as you're aware, Dominica, we have experienced 2 major storms, one in 2015 and one in 2017, and both contributed significantly to the demise of the agricultural sector, as well as impacted in a significant way on the rural dwellers, especially the vulnerable groups which women falls within. And to just give a sort of a sense as to the extent to the damage. In 2015, we recorded a US $47 million loss in agriculture. And likewise, in 2017, which is just 2 years after, we further experienced a significant loss in excess of $50 million US dollars in agriculture. And this has serious implications to the livelihood and food security among the vulnerable groups. And over the last 10 years or so, we recognize a decline in the contribution of agriculture to GDP, as well as a decline in the export of our crops. And therefore, we know that a large percentage of our rural population depends on agriculture, and agriculture still continues to be a very important sector in the economy of Dominica. It's really important that we pay particular attention in terms of the subject area. We make mention of the issue of disaster management. Now, I think it would be wise first to establish some critical challenges faced by our women, and I will just list some of them because they're important in terms of our discussion and interventions. There's a differential vulnerabilities and risk for women and men in the agri-sector due to disproportionate impacts experienced by women. Men and women unequal participation in agriculture is linked to gender-based access to land, credit, extension service, and other productive assets, and gender occupational segregation and differential wages. Men generally own large parcels of land and are involved in large-scale agricultural production and rearing of small stocks. Limited access to financing also undermines rural farmers, and in particular women farmers and agricultural workers, from being able to expand in new markets and move beyond the bond of the working poor. We have seen a disconnect between the scale of farming and accessible financial provisions, and as well as small farmers, particularly those in remote areas, are unable to integrate national value chains and develop sustainable markets for their produce. And last but not least, the limited integration of gender equality analysis, climate and disaster risk resilience in agricultural practices. And that has immense impact in terms of food security, especially in the wake of natural hazards and the impact of climate change. IICA over the years has contributed significantly in helping restoration activities, especially after storms, working with some of the vulnerable groups, women, and in most cases is to get women or producers get back on their feet in terms of production or their agribusiness. And over the last couple of years, we have found different approaches, because right now we cannot continue the business as usual, because if every time after a storm there's an expectation that you go in there and restore, seeking funding to help people restore, that in itself is very limited as to its impact in terms of sustainability. And as such, over the last couple of years, there are a number of interventions that I would like to highlight that we think would be more profound in terms of sustainability, that will support the issue of response, the issue of, in a sense, reduced vulnerabilities and quick response. I think the first area I would like to touch on, because the government itself has made some bold statements. They have gone on to establish some clear policy directions, and that being Dominica being one of the first resilient country, and as such, most of the sectors are following suit and are developing the policy strategic framework. In doing so, in agriculture, we have the Climate Recovery Resilience Program or strategy, as well as the NRDS, which is the National Resilience Recovery Plan. And IICA in itself has supported Dominica in developing what we consider to be an agricultural policy. And the formulation of that policy would take into consideration the critical groups And I would just like to outline the policy goal, what is articulated in the policy as a goal, and is to promote a sustainable and resilient agriculture and food system that supports conservation and sustainable use of natural resource, preservation of biodiversity and ecosystems, while ensuring food and nutrition security, wealth creation, employment, and diversified livelihoods and rural development. That is in a sense provide the umbrella under which we'll be operating in terms of our programs. And IICA was happy to be part of the leading organization in crafting the policy. And I know at some stage this policy will be approved and be the agricultural policy used in this country. Now, what I think is important to note within the policy framework is the guiding principles that again links a lot in terms of the focus on the vulnerable groups. And I'll just outline them because it fit within the landscape in terms of what we will be speaking on. And I want to make mention of 4 principles or guiding principles. One dealing with the resilience and sustainability in the agricultural system and the supply chain as an integral part of the national food system, with a focus on resource use efficiency, application of technology and innovation, small production systems, and practices and exposure to risk reduction. The whole issue of agro-entrepreneurship and value creation as an integral part of the national food system through support to foster the facilitate innovation and resilient agribusinesses. And the issue of inclusion of gender equity and co-management to ensure participation of key stakeholder groups, including women and youth, in the planning, execution, and compliance and evaluation process. And last but not least is the whole issue of the transformation in agriculture and food system to foster transition from exclusive blue and green production practices to focus on a more management-intensive, risk-sensitive, climate-smart, and sustainable practice for improvement in productivity, resilience, value addition, and market and trade. The reason I took time off is because this is an important framework under which we're going to be working and moving forward. And most of what I'll be speaking from can be linked to this policy framework. Now, we are working very closely with women. And one of the areas that we're looking at is the issue of microfinance. And I would like to say something about the microfinance. We do have facilities in Dominica that provide financial support to agribusinesses and so on. But the concept of microfinance as it relates to building resilience, as it relates to the adoption of best practice, adaptation for possibilities in terms of reduction of vulnerabilities, it's not clearly defined. And as such, what we have done is to get a very clear understanding of the microfinance environment through a situation analysis that was able for small and medium-sized business, but looking very closely at the issue of building resilience among the vulnerable groups. And that our focus in that case was women. Another area that we are working very closely on is the issue of the value chain development. And in so doing, what we are doing is understanding the market that we operate in, looking at certain priority value chains, and again, in the context of value chains that have shown some level of resilience, as well as value chains that we need to advance in terms of building resilience and reducing their vulnerabilities, understanding the relationship among the chain actors along the value chain, and creating the linkages between the producers and the market. So these are some of the things that some of the approaches we took in terms of the value chain development. Along the lines of climate smart agriculture, we have been looking at employing a gender approach, not just looking at the technical aspect in terms of climate events and technologies, but looking at how gender inclusion in the process and looking at the business development aspect in terms of resilience. And under the climate smart agriculture, our focus will be on building capacity, utilizing various methodologies and developing modules that can be used to train our beneficiaries. Now, it is important I just highlight some of the critical products that we have achieved thus far moving forward. And one of the outcome or one of the products that I can indicate that is available now is a culturally appropriate and gender responsive microfinance strategy or mechanism for small and medium-sized agricultural enterprises. And we do have a implementation plan to implement a pilot gender responsive microfinance scheme for the small businesses. We also have developed the training modules that can support our beneficiaries in terms of managing and accessing microfinance. We do have, we are in the process of developing an e-commerce platform that will link our producers to market, as well as to develop their products that to meet some of these market requirements, as well as looking at the whole issue of value addition as one component in building resilience in the products that they're dealing with. So this is some of the critical things that are ongoing. And we are hoping that most of what we are doing is towards livelihood resilience, towards sustainable livelihood activities, and again, to contribute to the sustainable development of some of the rural territories with a lot of emphasis on our women. And to close, I just want to make mention of some of the critical projects that assisted us in doing some of this work. We have been working with the UNDP on the project titled Strengthening Disaster Management Capacity of Women in the Cooperative Republic of Guyana and Dominica. And we were responsible for implementing Output 2 that deals with livelihood resilience, strengthening hazard-prone communities using the gender-responsive disaster risk reduction and sustainable livelihood approaches. And there are other activities that we are involved in, for instance, under the Partnership Initiative on Sustainable Land Management that can contribute to natural resource management, as well as our own internal projects, because we do have a project that we are involved in right now that we're actually measuring vulnerabilities in the rural communities in terms of our food security vulnerabilities, in terms of climate change. So there are a number of things that we are doing that will be contributing in terms of building resilience, strengthening our livelihood, and reducing some of the vulnerabilities to climate change. So I will stop here in terms of my presentation, and maybe during the discussions, I can probably further detail some of the things that we are involved in. Thanks a lot.
Okay, thank you for that, Mr. Coipel, on some of the interventions that are taking place in Dominica. And now we will move on to Laurenzo Tirtopawiro. And Laurenzo is currently the Agricultural Technology and Innovation Specialist at IICA Suriname. He is an agronomist, graduated in 2012 at Universidad Agraria de La Habana, Cuba. He coordinated the field production for the cassava processing plant in Suriname. He works with rural communities in enhancing their livelihood by exposing them to modern technologies for production and processing of the root crop. He has collaborated in soil and water management pilot projects on degraded mine-out soils in the hinterlands of Suriname. He also works in strengthening the capacity of rural women producers on packaging and labeling of their agricultural produce. So I will now hand you over to Laurenzo.
Hi, good morning, everyone. So let me start by thanking Nakilia there for a great introduction, and see if I could share my small presentation that I prepared for today on the project that we have done in Suriname regarding smart climate technologies. Let me see how this works. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, I could see. You just need to go into full screen now. Great.
All right. Let's get starting right away on the presentation. As Nakilia mentioned, my name is Laurenzo, technical specialist with IICA Delegation in Suriname, representing the Climate Smart Technology project that has been done in a year ago. And let's see. The presentation layout for today, we'll have the project summary, an objective, the main activities, deliverables, achievements, summary farmers' experience, and the positive agroecological practices and benefits. The project title is Suitable to Climate Impacts through the Promotion of Climate Smart Agriculture. And it was a budget amount of 266,087 with an implementation duration of 80 months. It was an initiative under the GCCA Plus Suriname Adaptation Project funded by the European Union in collaboration with the UNDP Suriname. The overall objective of this project was to strengthen the resilience of the agriculture sector in Suriname to the negative impacts of climate change through the promotion and use of climate smart agriculture technologies, with specific objective targeting farmers, reducing vulnerability to climate change impacts through the building of knowledge and skills in the use and management of protected agriculture structures, micro-irrigation, and rainwater harvesting system for sustainable commercial vegetable production. The project itself was implemented at the area called Wegnar Sea, located on the northwest of the capital, Paramaribo. As the name suggested, it is on the Atlantic coast. It's one of the main vegetable producing area of Suriname with a population of 16,037, according to a census held in 2012. The main activities under the project, we could divide it in two main activities, where we had the establishment of protected agriculture structure, the setup of micro-irrigation systems, and rainwater harvesting system completed with water reservoir with a capacity of 480,000 liters. The second component had a lot to do with the development of on-farm training modules in the use and management of the protected agriculture structure, the maintenance of the protected agriculture structures, the setup, the design, and the use and management of micro-irrigation systems, and also on-farm training on management of soil and water. As mentioned, one of the deliverables are that we were able to establish two protected agriculture structure. The model used was the double ridge protected agriculture structure with a dimension of 45 meters by 9 meters by 7.5 high. These models have normally high side walls, so it will also already increase your air circulation inside the protected agriculture. But what you really want is to have a better management of temperature and humidity. Therefore, this structure has two horizontal flow fan and 4 cooling fan installed, together with a misting system that is being triggered by a sensor system. The moment temperature rises, it will trigger it, and you will see that the temperature will go down and cool the whole system inside. The crop production method used was on basis of hydroponic production system, soilless culture, and the whole protected agriculture structure is also covered to keep with anti-insect netting to keep pests and diseases off. The substrate used was locally produced with local material, local source materials such as river sand and rice chaff. The ratio was calculated based on the bulk density of each material. Both system was totally run by solar energy with a solar system with a capacity of 60 kilowatt. I must mention that every additional energy that was not used are being sent to the local electrical company, which gave the farmer a discount on his monthly electrical bill, household bill. On the side of the protected agriculture structure, you will find a guttering system that collects all rainwater from the roof and stored in a water reservoir with a capacity of 480,000 liters. This reservoir is further lined with a pond liner, the HDPE pond liner, to protect your water from groundwater contamination or by saltwater intrusion. In regards of the micro-irrigation systems, we have installed 2 micro-irrigation systems, the micro-overhead sprinkler on an area of 4,000 square meters for the leafy vegetable production, and drip tube irrigation systems on an area of 2,000 square meters for vegetable productions like tomato, sweet pepper. Both systems were completed with fertilizers, injectors, and primary and secondary filter to prevent your emitters to clogging. The fertilizer injector allows you actually to calculate the right amount of nutrition required per growing stage of your crop, and also minimize nutrition loss by runoff, which works well because if you have a lot of inefficiency when you calculate the fertilizer, using fertilizer, your cost of production will just go up and go up. In regards of rainwater harvesting reservoir, we have installed 3 of the same sizes each on different type of soil. Different materials were used. I'm saying that because depending on the type of soil, you would need to calculate the right angle of the slopes. So you have a solid wall for your water reservoir, and also depending on the location, you would have to calculate your dike around your water reservoir. Depending on the size, you could ask the supplier also to provide you with a one-piece pond liner, or you could ask the supplier for sheets. So they will give you rolls which you would need to weld on site, but therefore you would need an additional tools to weld these sheets together. So you have a clean pond liner without any gaps between the seal. Some other achievements under the project was that we could have trained 121 farmers, 22 agriculture extension officers, 21 students of the Community University of the Agriculture Department on open field micro-irrigation and crop management on the protected agriculture structure. Several farmers and agriculture technicians participated on a center of research in Santa Anita, Jalisco, Mexico. Also, one video has been produced on climate change and climate smart technologies. You could find this video on the YouTube channel. Farmers, when you introduce them to new technologies, they will also establish plots to compare what they are doing and what they are introduced into. Therefore, farmers have done visual observation and small, simple data collection of fields between agriculture structure production and open field. They have checked on the harvesting time. They noticed that they could have harvest till 12 months under protected agriculture condition, and open field, they had 3 months of harvest of this of sweet potato. Weekly fruit set on the per plant on the protected agriculture structure, they noticed it was higher, and on the open field condition, it was lower. The quality of fruits on the protected agriculture structure, they didn't detect sunburn, and open field condition, the sunburn were present. In regards of the fertilizer, the plants react faster, and on the open field conditions, the plant reacts slower. Washing harvest fruit on the protected agriculture structure wasn't necessary. The fruits were clean. You could basically eat it right away out of the plant. The open field conditions were you would require washing the foods before consuming. Yield per plant on the protected agriculture structure were higher and on the open field was lower. The taste was sweeter on the protected agriculture structure and slightly bitter on the open field conditions. Regards of the positive agroecological practices and benefits by using rice chaff as a growth substrate. Here in Suriname, we are used to burn rice chaff that cause, CO2 emissions. The growth substrate can be reused for open field soil amendment for amelioration upon replacement. By collecting all rainwater harvesting, you have quality water for irrigation. The micro-irrigation systems are compared to the one that we are using or they are using or normally using is 85 to 100% more efficient compared to a 60% with the method that we are using now and that before. Reduce of pesticide, weedicide due to soil culture, soilless culture and protective cultivation environment. More efficient use of fertilizers through hydroponic system, which reduce leaching of agrochemicals into soil and groundwater sources. Reservoir with protective lining protects stored irrigation water from contamination by saltwater intrusion. Reduce crop losses due to reduced incidence of weed. We use ground cover in the protected agriculture structure. Reduce incidence of pest and disease. The whole protected agriculture structure was fully closed with anti-insect netting. Reduced impact of environmental factors due to controlled environment, sunburn, shade netting also was included. Nutrition and moisture deficiency disorder and chemical injuries. I think with this slide, I've ended the experience that we had in the field and looking forward to the discussion later on.
Okay, thank you for that and the experiences that we are having down in Suriname, Laurenzo. And so now I will pass on to our colleague, Willie Chan of over there in Belize. So Willie Chan is currently the technical coordinator of IICA Delegation in Belize, and he is responsible for coordinating all the activities related to the technical agenda of that delegation. And he is the main contact person between IICA, the Ministry of Agriculture, Food Security and Enterprises, as well as other stakeholders with whom the delegation works closely. He has a bachelor's degree in agricultural science and production from Zamorano University in Honduras. And he is currently pursuing a master's degree in climate change from the Universidad Europea del Atlántico. He previously held a managerial position at a commercial tilapia production farm in Belize. And today he will be speaking to us on experiences on integrated soil fertility management. You have the floor, Willie.
Hi, thank you, Nikela. Can you see my screen?
Yes, I could see your screen, just need to go into full screen now.
Let me know if it went into full screen, please.
Yes, all good.
Okay, thanks very much, Nikela, for that introduction. As you mentioned, I'm going to be presenting the project that we did here in Belize with the IICA delegation in collaboration with the Ministry of Agriculture, the Banana Growers Association, and the University of Belize. This project was financed by the European Union, and the topic or the title of the project was Productivity Enhancement of Banana Farms through Integrated Soil Fertility Management in the Banana Belt area of Belize. I'm gonna turn off my camera so as not to have too much bandwidth interruption. The overall objective of this project was to foster social and economic development, leading to the reduction of poverty, focusing on the workers, their families, and the communities in the Banana Belt area of Belize. The Banana Belt area of Belize is located in the southern part of the country, constituting of Stan Creek and the northern part of Toledo District. One of the major problems that was identified, and the reason why this intervention was made, was because it was observed that the productivity in the area was declining, and this was majorly due because of soil fertility and soil health issues. Issues such as soil compaction, high soil acidity, nutrient depletion, soil degradation, and low organic matter content that are found within the area. The project had a duration of 18 months, and as I mentioned, was financed by the European Union to a total of a little over 2 million euros. The major stakeholders, as I had said before, was the Banana Growers Association, which consists of 10 farmers or 10 owners, a total of 19 farms, and a little over 7,500 acres of banana under production. The intervention was done in approximately 7.5% of the banana fields, which was 560 acres. And this was distributed within the 19 farms. And the farms for intervention were selected based on the severity of problems that they would show. The intervention consisted on 3 major components, which was capacity building, which aimed to try to increase the knowledge of farmers and technicians in integrated soil fertility management, actions that were geared toward helping increase the soil fertility. And the third one was enhancing the capacity of the University of Belize micro-propagation laboratory for improved production of banana planting material. As you can see here in the pictures, this was one of the first activities or first sessions that was done where we tried or where we showed the participants, the farmers, the technicians, the importance of having good soil health and how this translates into overall productivity. For this session, we had obtained some rapid soil test kits, which were going to help the farmers in being able to collect soil information in the fields and being able to analyze this information to determine what is the nutrient level, what is the biological activity in the field, and what actions can be done to increase such. After the theoretical presentation, they moved on to the field where they put in practice everything that was learned. How to be able to take a soil sample, how to map your field whenever you're doing the sampling, and how to use the different elements that are found in a soil kit. Another of the training was on pH management. As I had mentioned, this was because of the issues of high soil acidity. Farmers were taught to be able to determine the pH content and be able to know how many of the amendment needed to be applied in order for them to do the correction of the pH in their soils. Because of the low organic matter content in the fields, the technicians and farmers were also taught on how to be able to elaborate their own compost based on the available materials that were in the field. You know, there's a lot of banana waste and other products that are found in the field, and how you could integrate these products to develop a good quality composting. They were provided with the different materials and kits that are needed to be monitoring their compost during the duration of the project. The other issue was with regards to soil compaction. We could see here in the images, we know that for the banana production especially, you need a soil compaction to be less than 2.5 kilo per cm cube. In this instance, in most of the fields, we would find compaction levels of between 3.5 to 4.5, which is hindering the root growth of the banana plants. And so we would have a lot of issues with toppling, because, you know, the root system is not fully developed, and also a lot of innovation to absorbing the nutrients that they would require. So actions were done in this area to be able to help with the compaction levels. We had to do some interventions when it comes to doing the decompaction using manual forking or using, as you see there, the small equipment, and then incorporating organic material within the root zone so that we could help break up these soil and for the root system to develop properly. Another issue was with drainage. Some fields used to hold a lot of water, so we had to find a way how to ease the pressure of having too much water in the fields. So interventions were done to different types of drainage, from the surface drainage to the primary drainages, so that we could evacuate the excess water that were found in the fields. When we did the enhancement with the University of Belize, they were trained to be able to produce high quality planting material. And what was the main objective here was to compare the planting material produced locally from the planting material that was being imported. So we had to set up a nursery where we would put side by side the different planting material, the one that was imported and the one that was produced locally, and evaluate how well they would adapt, how well they would grow, and how well they would respond to the different practices that were done. These were then moved on to a demonstration plot where side by side we would have the comparison of the different meristems produced, and they were done in different farms, so as for us to be able to take data and at the end of the project say, okay, these plants thrived well, they are doing well, and in terms of productivity, how early the plants were going to produce their bunches. As with cover crops, some of the fields, because of the compaction level and because of the different improper practices we would say that were done, they would be left to be bare. What we wanted is to be able to provide us a cover of the ground. So we introduced different types of cover crops. We introduced the sun hemp, the Crotalaria huncea, which is a leguminous plant, nitrogen fixing. We introduced some types of grasses also, just to be able to hold some of the soil surface, because whenever we had too much rains, they would erode. Part of the activities also involve training different high schools that were around the farm area. So we provided some basic trainings in integrated soil fertility management, and also helped them establish a 1-acre banana plantation for them to be able to put in practice everything that was taught within the duration of the project. And as I had mentioned, the Ministry of Agriculture was very instrumental, and they also participated and benefit from these trainings. For the renovation of the laboratory, the major renovation that was done was with regards to the roof. An entire roof was put together. The internal walls were all restructured so as to provide an adequate process flow and avoid any type of cross contamination when producing the meristems. Here we could see the different laminar flows, the technicians doing the tissue culturing, and also the rooting of the meristems in the laboratory. The University of Belize also benefited from a nursery where they would do the first hardening and the second hardening of these plants. So what were the main achievements that were obtained during this project? An average of 30 persons were trained on the integrated soil fertility management. And just to mention the integrated soil fertility management approach, what this does is it promotes efficient and effective use of both organic and inorganic amendments Also, the use of improved germplasm and good agronomic practices. With regards to the different drainage works that were done, a total of 1,077 acres of the 7,500 acres benefited of the different types of drains. 255,000 meters of drainage were done, and this include both from surface all the way to tertiary drains. The compaction works was also carried out in 1,000 acres of banana field. With regards to the fertilizer and calcium amendment under the efficient and effective fertilization program, 560 acres benefited of these applications. 25 rapid soil test kits were procured, as well as 90 environmental kits, and these were handed over to the beneficiaries so that they could continue doing their rapid assessments and being able to determine where the major intervention would be needed in their farms. 12 demonstration plots were established, as I had mentioned before, and these were for teaching purposes so that the farmers could see the difference of doing improved practices and how they would translate in overall productivity. Cover crop seeds were procured also that could be used over 1,500 acres of the farm. 364 tons of bagasse was, this is sugarcane bagasse, was used for the organic material application. Under the replanting program, a small amount was done, 37 acres of banana fields were replanted, and the renovation of the micro-propagation laboratory. So what were the lessons learned? Well, what we saw is that more practical training was required, more time to be out in the field so that the farmers could learn or grasp better some of the concepts. For a duration, for a project of this magnitude that was just 18 months, we would require at least more time to see benefits of the integrated soil fertility management practices that were taught. What we learned also was it is very, very important to include your farmers or your owners from the onset of the project, from the design, and include them in all the steps of the project. And also the integrated soil fertility management, when done correctly, it could help improve your soil and overall health, and overall productivity, that is. So on the way forward, what we are looking at is projects that could build on what has already been started, encourage the farmers to continue adopting the practices, avoid working in silos, because Belize is a small country, so it would be good to find the synergies of different works that is being done, and not to be working in silos, and to continue providing the technical cooperation when the farmers need it. This project was finalized in May of 2019. We began on December of 2017. And the beauty of it is with the capacity building, what we use all the technicians from IICA, from the region. We have our own here, Dr. Chinis Martin, who was very instrumental in providing some of the trainings. We had others such as Mr. Gert Charles from Grenada and Dr. Bimbola Biola, who was also part of the cadre of trainers. So that's the presentation that I had for you guys with the project that we had worked on. Thank you.
Thank you for that experience over there in Belize, Willie. So participants, there we have it. We have presented to you from the last 3 forums, soil and land, water and soil management, presented to you the use of forage in your livestock production. We looked at the use of meteorological data on your farm. So now today we are now presenting to you some of the work that IICA has been doing in the region, and we do have a lot more being done in the other countries. We have a lot of work being done in Barbados, Guyana, Bahamas, Antigua. So now we will go into the question and answer segment. So if you have any question, you could open your mic and speak, or you could type your question in the chat, and one of the presenters will respond accordingly. And you could also raise your hand if you have any questions. Any questions from the floor? Yes, I see we have Ina. Go ahead.
Hi, good morning. Thank you very much for sharing of the information. I think the panelists, they all did a very good job with sharing what they've done in their respective countries. And it's really good to see, that there are actually actions on the ground ongoing with regards to interventions to address climate smart agriculture, soil health, and a more holistic approach to crop management. My question is directly regarding the project that was presented in Suriname, I believe. The system that was demonstrated there, the cover structure system with solar energy and water catchment, if an indication of cost and adaptability with regards to capital investment needed by a farmer to have a system such as that one.
Okay, thank you for Ina. Laurenzo, if you could take over this question.
Yeah, Ina, the cost of one structure was about 15,000 US, and when the add-ons to it, it came to about 30,000 US. We have now noticed that farmers in Suriname, especially organizations, that they are already establishing the same models from the structure, and also till the water reservoir, installing water reservoirs also. So basically, what we did was also a demonstration to these farmers. We didn't do the costing analysis afterwards, but that's something that we want to do forward. But the system costs around roughly 50,000 completely.
Okay, thank you, Laurenzo. We have one question in the chat, and I think that might be for you, Willie. What are the capabilities of the environmental kits and the cost for one of those kits? Or probably we could provide them with some more details on that.
Yes, thank you, Nikila. The environmental kits, as I had mentioned, was part of the package that was provided, and these were just rapid test kits that were used to be able to tell you in a general sense the nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium levels, and also to be able to measure pH, and these were all color coded. In terms of cost for one, it was around $14 for one of the kits.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any other questions from the participants? Yes, Sharon, go ahead.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to have one question. In St. Kitts, we've also used the lined ponds for water catchment in farmers' fields and general catchment. But what the farmers have noticed is that the water temperature was very hot because of the color of the lining, and also that they found because of the heat, they were getting a lot of evaporation from the pond. So if you can share with me the experience in Belize with regards to that, so that I can learn as to how it was managed. Thank you.
I think the ponds was in Suriname, right?
It was in Belize, sorry. It was in Belize.
Okay.
With the greenhouse.
Yeah, we noticed the same situation in Suriname. What we advise to do is that, you know, you could use a duckweed to cover your pond, but the thing is with duckweed, sometimes you have these derbies that the roots are producing, which might clot your emitters in the end. So be aware that when you use like a cover crop on it, like duckweed, that you have a good filtering systems. We are trying to look to put shade cloths on it as well to cover these ponds. But that's something that we also looking into, because during the dry seasons and high temperatures, we have a lot of these water losses to evapotranspiration.
Okay, thanks, Laurenzo. Any other questions? If we don't have any other question, I'll just ask one general question to the presenters. And they spoke a lot about on the ground work and the experiences on the ground. And just give us a quick response in terms of, okay, go ahead, Ainsworth, I see your hands up.
All right, thanks so much, Nikhila, and thanks to the presenters. Just want to say that there are times when we can actually modify some of these solutions that were recommended. So for example, for small farmers, they may not be able to take on all of it one time, you know, because of the costs. So if it is that we can recommend, which is what we usually do in Jamaica, maybe recommend maybe, you know, simpler structures that they can start with, and then they can branch off into more, you know, complicated structures that, you know, metal with fitted with solar panels and so on. But it's just for them, for them to start the process, you know, to build that that knowledge, and you know, for them to actually tune into the process, and you know, they just give them a starting point. So sometimes, you know, when you see everything, you know, it looks overwhelming. But I mean, if you can actually, you know, give them a starting point, you know, that usually works as well.
Yes, thanks for that. And definitely, Ainsworth, I mean, even with every situation, you have to assess it differently. And then I think from there, you would build up on what is required and based on the support available. So just the general question, we saw a lot of the underground works, a lot of the experiences. And, you know, if we could just get a quick idea of how that now translates into building a more resilient and responsive agriculture, this sort of work. So, Mr. Coipel?
Yeah, thanks, Nikhila. Like I indicated earlier, what we are doing is trying to create the sort of framework that will help some level of sustainability as it relates to some of the interventions. So I made mention of the microfinance mechanism with a special focus on women being able to access financing. And we certainly will be, this mechanism will be part of a institution that already exists in terms of providing loans, grants, and support to those beneficiaries. The other aspect that I touched a little bit on was the value chain. And like I indicated, that most persons would not have had in the past an opportunity to be able to get their products to certain markets. So now we are now creating this platform through e-commerce so that the buyers can be in close contact with the producers, as well as the producers can have an avenue to promote and to distribute their product. We're also looking for direct support to the beneficiaries in enhancing their products to meet the market requirements, whether it's in terms of market access or whether it's in terms of the whole aesthetics of their products, provide any kind of information that is required of the market, and to make it a lot more marketable in a sense. The last but not least is the issue of the climate smart agriculture approach. And we really would want to focus, not just, if you notice, a lot of discussions today was in terms of the technical technologies involved in terms of reducing vulnerabilities and enhancing resilience. But we need to really bring in the aspect of the gender sensitivity, the issue of the technology that is more suited for particular groups and so on, as well as to empower the agribusiness to be able to adopt those technologies. So this is some of the things we tie in terms of resilience. So we move a little bit, we move on the softer side of resilience in the presentation.
Thank you for that, Mr. Coipel. Laurenzo, how does this sort of work translate to building the resilience and responsiveness of the agriculture sector down on your end?
So in our case, this project was like a starting point for farmers to come together and acknowledging the problems, the similarities in problems they are facing now. And what happened is that these farmers that were at the training, so training each other, helping and supporting each other, and actually allowing people to enter the farms and see what they are achieving after the trainings. And you also see suppliers are bringing these products, these items in that wasn't available in Suriname. You see other organizations, bigger organizations, putting the same structures and going by these farmers where we started the project, and seeing how they could work together and having a better approach regarding climate change and the impacts that comes with it.
Okay, thank you, Laurenzo. Willie?
Yes, thanks, Nikki. As I had mentioned, this project is specifically centered around integrated soil fertility management, how you could increase your overall health, which will then be transformed into increased productivity. And when we think about resilience and how climate affects, especially in this part of the sector or production sector in agriculture, the banana sector, they have a lot of challenges when it comes to flooding and high winds. So if you notice, one of the major interventions that we mentioned and focused on was the restructuring, refurbishment, and the introducing drainage in the banana plantations. Also, the decompaction, the incorporation of organic materials. So what this would do, it would help overall in the plant adapting and for them to be able to withstand in a certain way some of these adverse effects that climate change poses towards the industry. So with the farmers adopting most of these practices, also the use of cover crop, they would see a significant reduction in the amount of chemicals that they would need to be applying in the field. So this would also help overall in the resiliency of their production. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for that, Willie. And now I will put everyone into breakout groups. And the two questions that we will be discussing in those breakout groups are: what projects are currently being implemented in your country? Any project that you are aware of? If you could just provide information on that, that will be greatly appreciated. to update our databases. And also we want to know from you, the participants, because I know it's a lot of work still required on the ground. So if you could get a general idea from you, what type of projects you would like to see implemented in your country. So I will put everyone into breakout groups based on the country that you are from. And I will I'm going to put in the link to the form. Some of the groups, if you could select somebody among yourselves to fill out the form. So once you have completed filling out the form, you could just click submit. If you have not completed before the time closes off, you can wait afterwards and submit. Okay, so I have placed it in the link to the document in the chat, and now I will put everyone into breakout groups.
Hello?
Yeah.
Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, hi. My name is Prince Avery. I'm a bit late. I had a few issues trying to join the meeting. So I'm on board. You know, if anyone can carry me up to speed, or the participant in Jamaica can carry me up to speed, I greatly appreciate it.
Okay, no problem. Once we put you in the breakout groups, they will give you a quick update. Thank you.
All right, great. Thank you so much.
Welcome. So welcome back, everyone. So right now, if we have anybody that want to give any remarks, if anybody have any additional questions, we'll take those now before we go into our closing remarks. Any questions, anything you discussed that you would like to share about the forum, anything at all?
Hello.
Yes, go ahead.
All right, so I'm Devroy from Jamaica. In my section of the meeting, just a while ago, we made mention of especially St. Elizabeth that is having some drought issues. And we also made mention of the negative impact of certain fertilizers, especially synthetic fertilizers on the soil. So how effective do you think incorporating organic fertilizers would be to combat climate change?
Willie, would you like to take this one on? In terms of
Hello?
yes, go ahead.
Yes, I'm the one that just posed the question a while ago.
Willie, are you with us?
Hi, Nikhila. Yes.
We had a question. Could you repeat your question?
Yes, basically it was how effective do you think organic fertilizers are in combating climate change?
You got that, Willie?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, with regards to that question, the effectiveness of, or what we are looking with the organic fertilizers is to helping increase overall soil health. So once you have a good soil health, you will have a very good biological activity happening there, which means that eventually you will rely less on applying synthetic or chemical fertilizers, and then your plants will develop even better. Of course, this won't be like a rapid response, because you know, it takes a while, but for you to be able to observe the different changes that will happen in your soil biological activity. But if you continue applying the synthetic fertilizers, you know, we are just further depleting the soil, and it will translate in soil salinization if nothing is done. So I think that it has its benefits, and obviously doing it with different practices, for example, the usage of cover crops, following or resting your land, this will all help in increasing your resilience and also helping your soil being able to capture a lot of the carbon as well.
If I may just add to that, because in terms of the synthetic fertilizer, it actually tends to damage your soil structure. It kills a lot of your beneficial organisms in your soil. Now, when you put in your organic material in there, that helps you build your soil structure, as Willie would have spoke of in his presentation in terms of soil compaction. And if your soil is too compact, that means your roots will not be growing too well, and the organic matter assists in that. Now, the chemicals can reach into your water sources, and so you have a lot of negative impacts there. But with the organics, that is something that takes, the trade-off there is that it takes time. It's something that takes a lot of time there.
Just one more question, please, if I may ask. Do you guys know of any organic fertilizer company that farmers could use or anything? Because you made mention that it is very time consuming to do, like composting, follow cropping and all of that. That will actually help with the microorganisms in the soil, the beneficial microorganisms in the soil, and improve the nutrient content. So do you guys know of any company that does organic fertilizer at this moment?
In terms of that, I think a lot of that would have to do with suppliers for Jamaica. I think that would vary with country. So I could probably do some background research and get that information to you after. But as it stands, I cannot give you anything specific for Jamaica. But also in terms of building your soil structure, you would really need the actual composting, and that's where that determination from you and that adoption of that climate smart and even that good agriculture practice comes in. So, but that information, I could try and get that to you afterwards, okay?
Okay, thank you very much.
So your full number in the chat then. Yes, Jenny, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I think these were two excellent questions here. I just wanted to add to one thing here. In terms of, there was to the gentleman, again, Nikilia pointed in the right direction. I don't know whether it's still available, but there was an excellent organic fertilizer that is from Italy, and they have about 75 years or more of experience in building that fertilizer. I can't remember the company as yet, but they were able to and consistently be on the organic matter, even when before the organics were in style. So if anything, I could ask the person that asked the question, perhaps to point your lens at Italy, a very reputable, long-standing organic fertilizer producer there with very efficient and effective products as well. So that's on that note. On the issue of the fertilizer and the use of fertilizer, I want to also be very clear that there is a potential hazard for both inorganic and organic fertilizers in terms of addressing the issue of climate change. The more important issue is understanding and managing the fertilizer, whether organic or inorganic. We are very clear about the nitrogenous fertilizers and the potential impact in the tropical soils in terms of the processes and how they could contribute, not only negatively to what she said there, but also positively to growth, but also to the issue of the release of a lot of the nitrogen oxide and the what we call the greenhouse gases. So it is, if I'm saying anything here, the take home there is that there is space for the use of organic and inorganic fertilizer, but the most important thing is how do you manage it? And that is why I think the example and the sharing of what was done in Belize and presented by Willie is so instructive. I think one of the things that, if again, the person that asked the question, you could look at the system of integrated soil fertility management. I think it is one of the very sensible or at least pragmatic ways to start off and go forward in terms of managing the soil and making these connections, at least to point you in that direction. So thank you very much for that question.
Thank you for that, Jenny. Ainsworth, I see your hands up. Go ahead.
Right, just quickly to let everyone know that there are local suppliers of organic fertilizer in Jamaica. So, I mean, you know, he can touch bases with me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So therefore you could touch base with Ainsworth at IICA. I could always send you his contact information. Okay?
Yes, I will do well with that. So would you do that after or?
Yeah, so Ainsworth, if you just send your contact email to him directly from there, that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you. So now we will go, if we don't have any other comments or any other questions, we will go into our closing remark from Mr. Michael Dalton, who is the technical specialist.
Yeah, morning, Mr. Jackson. I'd just like to make a comment on the whole aspect of soil fertility and nutrient. I think one of the fundamental problems we still face as it relates to soil organic matter and soil nutrient recycling has to do with the fact that you often hear talk about organic matter addition and things of that sort. We have to be able to yes, that the organic composting takes some time, but I think we have to find some ways and means in order to show the farmers the importance of such nutrient in the soil. But getting back to the fundamental issue, I think that we need to overcome, and it's something that we've been trying in extension for the longest while. We telling farmers about it, but somewhere along the line that we're still having some difficulty is the whole aspect of farmers during the land clearing, land preparation stage, normally burn the crop residue. And we know the problem with that. We have to find some strategic ways and means to come up with some solution in order to try and address the problem as it relates to nutrient recycling in the soil. And there's a problem that this has been going on for years now. This that we've been reaching out to farmers and telling them the importance. I think some way along the line, maybe come to some other creative strategy to address that problem.
Hi, Nicola, are you hearing me clearly? Can I make a contribution there before we end?
Yes, you could go ahead, Chinny.
Thank you very much.
I could not hear you, Chinny.
I said I wanted to agree with what the previous person had said. I want to agree with what they would have said. Are you hearing me clearly now?
Yes, hearing you now. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I want to highlight what I think is very important in terms of a difference in the whole issue of trying to build the health of the soil or even maintaining the health of the soil by the incorporation of organic matter. And I want to note that the issue of that from a technical point of view is you really want to be introducing stable organic matter into your soil. And so therefore, that is really the argument for compost that is done properly and that is stable. That is what adds to your soil and gives you the benefit there. There is a risk in terms of just adding organic matter to your soil where it is not stable, and so therefore the resident time is very limited, and depending on the type of organic matter, you do not get any sufficient accumulation, or accumulation tends to take a longer while. So I wanted to make that distinction so that we could very clearly have the idea that when we're speaking of organic matter, there is still a need for knowledge, still a need for management, and there's a still need for the implementation of sound practices when you're doing it. And so it is not a bike kind of, I have organic matter, let me just incorporate it. But really and truly, your first priority is to try to implement or incorporate stabilized organic matter, which is more likely to give you the benefits that we are talking about. So I just wanted to share that as we close out. Thank you.
Okay, just before you go, just for the benefits of our participants, if you could give a few liners on what you mean by stable organic matter, that would be great. Thanks.
Can I add something, ladies and gentlemen?
Go ahead.
Yes, I also like to inform you that well, in Jamaica, everyone knows that I have a fertilizer company that we do biostimulants. Most of our products are biostimulants, but we also have biofertilizers too. These products are manufactured in Europe, the sole distributor in Jamaica and also in the Caribbean. Also, my partners just recently establish a relationship with the government of El Salvador, where we're changing the whole structure as it relates to our culture, because we have sustainable products, that will aid in increasing production for crops and also reducing plant stress in terms of climate change. So I just wanted to make mention of that, and I think that's one of the reasons why Deborah had inquired, if there's any organic fertilizers that are out there, but there is. We are actually also in over 90 different countries worldwide, the products. So I just want to make mention of that. Just recently, I also came from Africa, where I also met with the president of one of the African nations, and I'm will be implementing those products in that particular country. So I just want to highlight the products that we have that will also aid, because we actually have a product which is which is called Spartan. Is a very good product. It also conditions the soil, and it also is in the microbial of the soil. And Deborah will actually be able to break it down for me, because I'm not an agronomist. He's our agronomist. I just handle the management of it. So Deborah, if you can elaborate on the Spartan and also the microgel. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you for that. What you could do is probably just share your information, and I could always share that with the participants. Okay?
Okay. Great. Thank you
so much. It's already in the chat. It's already in the chat, Nikila.
Okay, great.
Posted to the chat.
Okay.
Nikila, should I come in now?
Yes, please. Thanks.
Right. In terms of the stabilized organic matter, we are talking about an organic matter which does not require a whole lot more for decomposition, meaning that it is in what we call a steady state, that it has reached its almost decomposition period, or it does not have a whole bit of decomposition or degradation to go through again. So it is stabilized, meaning that when the microorganisms act upon it, it most likely would not generate a lot of heat. It may not generate a lot of the potential phytotoxic elements. And so it is there, it is stable there, it has reached that point where it would have produced the humic, the fulvic, and these kind of products, as well as a particular physical quality that does not go further on. For those of you that are familiar with compost and the process of composting, you will know that in the composting phase, there's what we call a stable phase and a maturation phase, where you do not expect any more heat to be generated, and the compost is more or less getting quiet, like they say, and you're starting to see it actually being transformed in more soil-like or humic-like state. That is normally a signal of the maturity of it. On that note, I also wanted to bridge there again a fundamental message that we must live in. Often we do this, and we have to be very careful how we do it when we share information. The reality is that when you share the information, there's a gravity on the farm that says, do these things make economic sense? Do I even have the capacity to invest in it? And that is a critical question, even when you're considering different lines of products, etc. Even no matter how sound the product is in terms of being able to do a lot of things, the question is, you must be thinking, when I purchase or when I invest in that, is that translating into a return and so that is a critical question, where no matter the product, no matter the practice, no matter the advice, one must think of it in that kind of way, in terms of a responsible and a management aspect, not just a technology, a product, a practice, but does it make sense? Is it going to lead to that? How much can I adopt, and how much am I going to get in return? So I want to leave that there in terms of going back when you're thinking of products, technology here. Not because it's just available and you heard about it, that means it could be implemented on your farm to reap the benefits. Thanks.
Okay, thank you for that extra clarification there and that addition there, Cheney. So now I will pass on to Mr. Michael Dalton, who is a technical specialist in St. Vincent, to give us our closing remarks. Mr. Dalton.
Very much, Nikilia, and good morning to everyone. I want to take this opportunity to thank all of today's presenters for their excellent presentations, sharing their experiences in enhancing climate responsive agriculture in the Caribbean region. I believe we have had a good mix here, from the experiences in small island states severely impacted by storms and in the process of rebuilding in a fashion that is more sustainable, to the Central American scenario, where we can experience what is being done in banana cultivation in Belize to manage and improve soil fertility, to the Southern Caribbean and the mainland country of Suriname and their own experiences with the use of climate smart technology. So thank you all, to all of you, the presenters and my colleagues. I wish especially to thank the stakeholders here today across all the participating countries for your attendance and active participation in the forum. Without you, none of this is obviously possible. Some of you have been with us from the outset, back in August when we held the first forum, and you have stayed the course through all 3 fora to this point. This is a demonstration of your own commitment and indeed the commitment of the organizations to which you belong. This shows that there is value in creating spaces such as these for sharing, learning, planning, and promoting policies, strategies, and actions towards more productive, low-emission, sustainable agricultural systems in the region. In this context, I wish to express thanks on behalf of the Caribbean team to IICA's climate change program that has driven the efforts to organize this forum. Particularly so to Dr. Cheney St. Martin, IICA's soil and water management specialist, and Nikilia Karai, technical consultant, who has really given all of their time and energies to make this year's forum a success. I have an appreciation of the challenges we sometimes encounter when we attempt to execute actions across multiple countries and multiple groups of stakeholders over multiple dates. And I believe this job was well done. To you, the stakeholders, I must say that IICA is an institution which values the establishment and development of long-lasting relationships with clients across all spheres of the agricultural sector. We believe that this forum has served as a platform to establish working relationships with some of you and to build on those already established. We propose to sustain this family approach to training and development going forward. In this context, I invite you to be part of the IICA regional family for the building of resilience in the agricultural sector, insofar as environmental issues are concerned. And in this regard, we should all stay in touch through our local IICA delegations in the countries, as we would certainly be looking to build on the gains of this year into 2022 and beyond. So thanks again, and a pleasant good day to each of you.
Thank you, Michael, and thank you everyone for joining us. And as mentioned, person who would have attended 3 or more of the forums will receive a certificate of participation, and also we will select 2 persons from each of the countries to receive some input support in their activities. Thank you very much and pleasant day to everyone.